and gentlemen, please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Chief Justice of India, Dr. CJI D.Y Chandrachud, to deliver a keynote address.
Good evening. Well, I'm delighted to be part of this conversation on a subject which is close to my heart: equality, justice, and empowerment. I laud the choice of this ever so relevant subject for the conversation this evening. The irony of having a man as a keynote speaker for an event focusing on issues facing the women of the country is hardly lost on everyone, least of all on me. But the issues that concern women today are broader issues facing our society. They will determine the kind of society we envision for the future. Issues of safety, equality of opportunity, dignity and empowerment are not subsets that ought to be discussed in silos. Every one of us in the country has to be a part of this conversation. Talking about women's rights is not a woman's thing. It's about all of us to engage in serious conversations at evenings like these. The perspective that women bring to this table is indeed irreplaceable. No amount of learned wisdom about the world can replace the insights of women who have shattered many a glass ceiling. Some of life's most valuable lessons that I have absorbed have been from women colleagues and co-workers. And like all Maharashtrian homes, in a home which has been dominated by women. I do not attempt to fill those shoes, or for that matter, the learning experience which I have learned and continue to learn from my best friend, my wife. But I do believe that heads of institutions, thought leaders, and citizens of this country cannot shrug responsibility. Conversations such as these are not only about women, but about the ability of our systems and social structures to design a more equal, humane society. Equal participation of women in governance, policy, and leadership roles is positively linked to better development outcomes. When we either create or fail to address barriers in the path of women, we are jeopardizing our quest for a better society. Indifference is no longer an option. Before we adopted the Constitution of India, the Indian Women's Charter of Rights was drafted by Hansa Mehta. She was an activist, a diplomat, and a member of the Constituent Assembly, the body tasked with framing the Constitution. Hansa Mehta was a feminist who famously argued that references to men could not be used as a synonym for humanity. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights now states that all human beings are born free and equal, rather than all men are born free and equal. The labor force participation of women is 37%. The contribution of women to the GDP is 18%. We have not exactly met the pre-independence hopes about women's economic participation. A part of the reason is the continued gendered allocation of domestic labor. Even as women are entering the workforce, they are never divorced from the domestic realm. They must simultaneously juggle domestic and caregiving chores. They are doubly burdened, almost as a penalty for transgressing the domestic threshold. Besides domestic work being unaccounted for in economic terms, it obstructs women's ability to hold on to paid work or to take on greater professional responsibility. Reports now indicate that gender disparity in employment is on the decline, and women's salaried employment is set to increase. We hope that this would bridge the gender gap in earnings significantly, if not eliminate it entirely. Gender equality is not just a function of statistics, but a function of the lived realities of women. This also applies to assimilate traditionally excluded groups, such as persons with disabilities and transgender persons. Our expectations from these groups are heavily based on the stereotypical understanding of their supposedly innate tendencies. We fail to appreciate them as individuals. As women break rank and enter professional workspaces traditionally dominated by men, they are expected to act like men. Ironically enough, they are also tacitly expected to act like women, act their part, lest they upset the code of womanly conduct. Paradoxically, women may run the double risk of being labeled as demure or shrill, depending upon the assessor's stereotypical understanding how women, quote unquote, ought to behave. Rewards and prejudices are entirely delinked from the caliber of the professional and colored by her gender identity alone. As she navigates this tightrope, constantly pitting her capability against perception, she must do so unsupported. Even as they break into elusive and exclusionary spaces, women are met with institutional apathy at best and hostility at worst. The result is high attrition rates and professional stagnation in entry-level and mid-level roles for women. Our experience with the district judiciary is unique and resonates with similar objectives and network-agnostic mechanisms. Our district judiciary is recruited through a 3-step examination process, which resembles the format for entry into the civil service. We have seen an increasing intake of women civil judges through these exams in recent years. 58% of the total candidates in Rajasthan in 2023, 66% of the appointments in Delhi in 2023, 54% of the appointments in Uttar Pradesh in 2022, and 72% of the total number of judicial officers appointed in Kerala are women. What this tells us is that once you liberate women from the network of patriarchal social attitudes and provide to them a level playing field on the basis of equality of opportunity, they not only compete shoulder to shoulder with other segments of society, but are far ahead of the curve. In the 19th century, a set of debates hoped to settle questions about citizenship, property, access to the public sphere, and political virtue as far as these questions related to women. These debates collectively came to be known as the woman question, though not controlling or connoting a particular set of questions. The discourse gave rise to narratives and counter-narratives about women in society. These debates have formed the basis of socio-political rights such as suffrage and rights in public and private realms. But let's not make two bones about it. Our Constitution was far ahead of its time in recognizing rights for women, which countries across the world were still coming to grapple with. It was a visionary document which was crafted by the founding framers. Every institution must put itself to test against some of these questions. In making seemingly neutral policy choices, are we privileging male default? Are we accounting for diversity in the C-suite beyond tokenism? Are we making accommodations for women's health, well-being, and professional growth? Are we viewing women as professionals in their own right? Are we doing enough to preserve both negative and positive aspects of liberty? The preamble to our Constitution envisages social justice and equality of status and opportunity, an aspirational document scripting the future of the country. The Constitution prescribes in concrete terms discrimination on grounds of sex while preserving the state's power to make special provisions for women and children. Non-discrimination on the basis of sex, equality before the law, and equality in matters of public employment broadly form the foundational principles of the guarantee of equality of opportunity and status. There is no dearth of substantive and procedural legal provisions targeted towards protecting the interests of women in public and private situations. But good laws alone, including stringent laws, do not make for a just society. Above all, we need to change our mindsets. Law can carry the journey towards women equality to a certain extent, but not beyond. the mindsets must move from making concessions for women to recognizing their entitlement to lead lives based on freedom and equality. As women have been clamoring in the recent past, we do not want a concession in terms of our security at our workplace. We just want equality of opportunity, which recognizes that, like every other element of the workforce, we're entitled to safe and secure conditions of work. We must zealously guard against apparently protective laws infringing women's liberties and choices. For instance, laws which prohibit women's employment in establishments where liquor is served, their access to resources, basic resources such as education, employment, and advanced resources such as mentorship and social capital are checkered. While legal goalposts do afford substance to the constitutional guarantees, they do not exonerate our institutions. Therefore, in conclusion, the foremost inquiry a just institution should make is this: are our systems and structures conducive to inclusivity, and are women supported in making unconventional choices that may not be socially sanctioned today? The Constitution guarantees the choice to opt for the conventional and the unconventional alike. Remember, in the 1960s, for a woman to become a fighter pilot on an Indian Air Force supersonic aircraft was an unconventional choice. It's conventional today. And that's what's changing our society for the better. The Constitution therefore guarantees the choice to opt for the conventional as well as the unconventional. Before we regard any choice as unconventional, wait for the moment to pass. Tomorrow, a new future unfolds in reimagining what it is to be a woman. Thank you very much.